guys, sorry I had to make a second video, but kind of the way it goes. 2 short videos this time. Our next word is the Tokugawa Shogunate. This is in Japan. This is when Hideyoshi became the most powerful person in China, and he was the shogun. Now, the shogun was the most powerful person in Japan, even more powerful than the emperor in the Tokugawa Shogunate, because the emperor was supposed to be close to a god, but the shogun pretty much had the emperor imprisoned, and he was a figurehead. He didn't really have any real power. The shogun had the actual power. So in the Tokugawa Shogunate, we had the capital was established at Edo, which is today Tokyo, and he was able to crush and defeat all his rivals, and he was the shogun that pretty much was able to rule Japan this time, transferring the samurai into basically his bureaucracy at this time. So a little bit more centralized power, but still had a form of basically feudalism that ruled in Japan. Let's get to that next one. All right, our next word is Hans. So Hans are attached to your arms. You have 10 digits. They're nice for counting. And oh, wait, shoot. No, it's not hands. It's Hans. Hans. H-A-N-S. What's that? Well, let's try that again. I kind of blew that one. Hans in Japan. Hans in Japan were basically provinces or states. Japan was broken up into 250 Hans or states during the Tokugawa Shogunate. Korea has been known as a hermit kingdom for quite some time, even today. The reason why is because for much of history, Korea has been kind of isolated and disconnected from other civilizations. The Q hairstyle. So the Q hairstyle was something that the Manchurians in the Qing dynasty made males wear. They had to dress more what their traditional hairstyle was for all men in the Qing dynasty. And this was basically Manchu made the Han dress like this, so they made the Han men dress like them, which was a show of the Manchu power in the Qing dynasty. Daimyo. The daimyo were the nobles or landlords in Japanese feudalism. Basically, they were the ones who owned large pieces of land and controlled the peasants underneath them, having samurais as their warriors. In the time period of the Tokugawa Shogunate, many of the daimyo lost power because the shogun had more. And they also lost many of their samurai, who then began to work as bureaucrats in the Tokugawa Shogunate. Ronin. Ronin were independent Japanese samurai. Basically, Ronin were samurai who no longer had a daimyo to be under because the role of the samurai became less important in the Tokugawa Shogunate, and they kind of went rogue and were pretty much independent fighters who would fight for money and for a wage. The Eta. The Eta were like the untouchables. They were the lowest people that existed at this time in Japanese society in this era. So they were even below the peasants, and they were almost pretty much considered untouchables or the poorest class in Japan. As your book says, they had jobs that were like being executioners, or even had like would be considered dirty jobs that other people did not want to have, so other people would avoid them and not even touch them.